or wait, no, sorry, musical instruments, I think is the name that this or moniker this person has gone by. Their affiliation with God is undecided, I think, is what we have on here. Calling from the Southeast USA, musical instruments. You are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hello, thank you for taking my call. And to start out, I'm from a different region. It's the Bible Belt, so try to take that in context when you're seeing where I'm coming from.
Listen, I grew up in Waco, Texas. Okay, I'm in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, so you won't surprise me at all.
Or the belt buckle.
Okay, good. Now, may I speak to the pastor briefly first before I address you, Drew?
Go right ahead, brother. What you got for me?
Okay, so I grew up what you'd call heathen, a bohemian household, scientists, artists, painters, poets. Went through life, got to drinking and doing drugs, and I found my way into the Christians. All right, I did that for a while until I got sober and all that, and did that. And what happened was towards the end of my career there, I ran into some really hardcore fundamentalists who, and I had some conversations with him. We got along just fine, but then I started opening up to this guy, to this preacher. And we talked for hours on the phone, and then he just came out of nowhere and he started calling me the devil, a servant of the devil, an agent of the enemy, a servant of the Antichrist. Like I'm now an enemy. And I didn't talk to him for a few weeks, and I called him back, and he said, "We don't have any need for you. We need soldiers who want to fight," and he just hung up. And I was wondering if you had a similar experience like that when you left the church, a real stuff like that. Well, did anything like that happen to you?
Thank you so much for the question. I'm sorry that happened to you. Were you saying, did I connect the dots correctly? So, I mean, you were bohemian, you were on that side of things, and then you met Christians, started going to church. Did you become a Christian? And even as a Christian
I got saved and all that.
After that.
Yes.
You were still a Christian when he started calling you those names and accusing you?
Well, yeah, I hadn't renounced. I just started speaking freely about questioning things and having ideas and all that. Yeah. Okay. I hadn't renounced and said I'm a devil worshiper or anything like that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you hadn't yet renounced your sins, but you're there, you're curious, and he just called you out. And first of all, what an asshole.
Yeah.
On behalf of all other ministers, pastors, whatnot, like shit, man, I apologize. Like that is horrible stuff. I think your real question though was whether or not I had experienced anything like that when I left the church. Is that right?
Yes. Did you have a bad lashback? Did you get alienated from people? Did they cast you out, so to speak, of their social circles, out of their lives? And
I mean, I did. I definitely had some of that. I've had some of that with family. I had some of that with the churches that I was with. It was maybe a little bit less than what some have experienced. Definitely a lot less than a lot of the garbage that many folks have had to face. Partly because the second church, the main church that I was a pastor of, was a little bit more open-minded. We considered ourselves evangelical in the sense that we believed the Bible was the inspired, inerrant, authoritative word of God. That said, we interpreted it from about as far left progressive as a lens as you can possibly go in like everything. There were people that were a part of the church who were atheists. And there are people from the church now that still keep in contact with me and are totally cool and still go to the church. That said, there were also my fair share of folks who totally cut me off and were very, very mean-spirited, evil, condemning. I started blogging shortly after my deconversion back in 2014 and received death threats. And so I guess I've seen both sides, but thankfully it wasn't my norm.
let me stop you there. I think I need your help. So I did not maintain those friendly ties, and I've had a couple of incidents here. I live in a very Christian area. I guess I need your help kind of chilling myself out. I've developed an anti-Christian mindset, and I think it's affecting my mental health. I had an incident down by the river. It almost turned violent, and they had guns, and I'm just angry at them, not only because they're using that riverland, but because their father is a preacher up at the Rock Church up there, and I don't like him now. I mean, the whole thing's just getting out of hand, and I need some advice on how to just keep the peace and not be so, because I got cast out, right? I got alienated, and so now I'm like bitter about it. So how do I undo this anti-Christian thing, this hatred that I've developed?
Absolutely. Well, I really, really appreciate this question. And,
yeah.
I guess a couple things I would offer, a couple quick ones first is, just to keep in mind that it is very common to feel the things you're feeling right now. It is exceptionally common. So you're not alone in that. There's nothing wrong with you in feeling those things. Oftentimes, when we first deconvert, and oftentimes then also for some of us lingers on for years after we leave the faith or come to whatever space where we are currently in. And sometimes over the years, the anger, the bitterness, the resentment fades. For others of us, it takes a while longer. And so you're not alone in that. Okay. Second thing I'd like to mention real quick is, I just want to, you mentioned mental health, and I want to make sure that you're connected to resources if you need them, if you don't have them already. There is a fantastic organization called the Secular Therapy Project.
Yes. I'm in all that. Don't worry about that. Thank you.
Okay. And recovering from religion, then I'm assuming as well, is another good space that's connected to the Secular Therapy Project.
Well, I like the reason I go to the chat rooms now is I just like talking to people who have different ideas. And that was always my limitation in Christianity, was that I like to explore ideas and be creative. And creativity is pretty frowned upon if you really look at Christianity. Yeah. They don't like it because the father of lies, and it really offended me, like to be creative and to fabricate and to tell stories. Well, according to the Christians, you're being of the devil. So, and I'm a naturally creative person. I like to, write. And anyway, I'm sorry I got a sidetrack. You were helping me after the mental health. So how did you personally maintain friendly ties with your compatriots?
Well, I think the most helpful thing to do in trying to let go of some of the anti-Christianity is keep in mind that Christianity is a wide tent. And if there was truth in it, that there was, the Bible was real and that version of God is real, then sure, then it would follow with that there's a true version of the one true Christianity. That said, it's not. It's all just different ideas that are loosely connected. There is no one true version of Christianity, and it's a broad tent. And most Christians, if you look worldwide at all the various forms of Christianity, most Christians don't believe the Bible is literal truth. Most Christians don't believe the most fundamentalist ideas. So something that could be helpful, different things are helpful for different people, but something that could be helpful is taking some time to consider, look at, immerse yourself in the perspectives, teachings of more progressive Christians, just to help you see that, you know what, some people are Christian and they're actually really cool.
My mother suggested that to go talk to Universalist Unitarians or whatever. And it's just the area I'm in. And I've actually started a little mini war, and it's bad. But because of the fundamentalists and my reactionary nature, and it's just a mess. But you're right. I need to forget about that. And you're right.
It's okay.
But it's not easy. It's not quick. Go ahead, Dan.
I want to chime in if you're okay with that, Drew, because this is really speaking to me. Because musical instruments, you probably don't know my story. I'm from Waco, Texas. My friend David Oliveira has a great saying about Waco. He says there's more Christians than people. right? In Waco, Texas. So
I remember David Koresh. I remember Koresh. Don't worry, I know where.
that's a whole that's a whole other thing. You know, well, I didn't grow up like that, but I knew a lot of people who were fairly fundamentalist. And I'll tell you about the story the last time I was voluntarily in a church. And this was when I was still an atheist.
Okay.
Right. And you understand this because you know when it's your only community, right? When it's literally just your friends that go to this church, you can still go to these things, even if you're kind of not believing, or maybe you're still kind of trying, but you're just like kind of in that space.
Right.
And I found out that the church I was going to was brought in a speaker to fund a gay conversion therapy camp. And I talked about it with these folks at this party. And I said, hey, I actually don't think this is right. I actually think that there's something kind of wrong with this. And I'll be honest, I was kind of raising a little bit of a stink, a little bit. And there's a lot of people that were coming and they were kind of joining in on this conversation. And a guy, a leader in our church, he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, maybe we should talk about this a different time. And that was the moment I knew, musical instruments, that I was not going to have that fucking conversation ever again, because they want to shut that down. And I left the church and I never went back. So like, you know, you have anti-Christian sentiments right now. That's not because you weren't hurt or because you weren't right. It sounds, at least from your perspective, from you telling me, you're absolutely in the right and you are hurt. I say, and I agree with Drew, you can build empathy, not just with Christians, but with other groups of people who have been oppressed in their own experiences as well. I used to be that guy that was like, well, what do you mean when you say all white people are X or all men are X, right? Oh, you can't just lump all groups of people. But now I understand that frustration, because I know when you're saying I hate all Christians or all Christians are like this way, you probably don't literally mean that in your heart, but that's how it feels in that moment, right? Yeah. So it's like, oh, that helped me understand other people's perspectives, right? Because it's like, that helped me build empathy with other people who have been oppressed for way even worse circumstances, right, than I've had the privilege of in my own upbringing, right? I think like that can be a healthy thing, right? Turn this experience not just into one where it's like, I only look back at this in negativity, to being like, wow, this inspired me to do even better things, right? At least that's how I've looked at my own experience with it. But I've been talking for a bit here, musical instruments. Go ahead.
No, I both of you, I just want you to know, I just wanted to talk about that. I hadn't talked about it. I don't really bring up the religious stuff and mental health. It's kind of, we don't talk about that, but yeah, so I'm glad to get to tell y'all that, what happened, and that's basically it. And thank you. I'm going to tone it down and just try to not engage with these individuals, or if I do, I'm going to try to let go of the chip on my shoulder, the resentment, and just see them as people.
Yeah.
And, you know, just de-escalate the situation, because it's all based on, it's resentment. I'm letting my personal resentment over a few incidents bleed out into this. And you're right. I need to just chill out
And you know what? You have no choice in this matter. You really, it's two things. You can either kind of just let it bother you, or you can choose to be the better person. And that is a lot you've been given in life, and it's not fair. It's not, but that's what you have to do, right? It's kind of what we all have to do, unfortunately. Yeah. And, you know, I respect you for it. And I wish you well in your journey. And I hopefully our perspectives were helpful for you today as well. Was there anything else you want to talk about before we let you go?
No, thank you. I just wanted to tell that story, that what happened, and talk to you about it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for calling in. Have a great
meeting you, musical.